Hello, and welcome to the No Ceilings Podcast on the Turtlesmith Network, where we discuss what we believe it takes to start a business. We will provide you with step-by-step guides on everything that you need in order to start a business. We may not have all of the answers, but we hope that we can provide you with some tangible things that you'll be able to use in starting your business. I'm Cortni Ogles.
And I'm Vincent Cato.
All right. Today, we're going to be talking about the elevator pitch. Scott and John talked about on the Turtlesmith podcast, they talked about the elevator pitch.
Right.
And I was super intrigued by the elevator pitch. Why? Even though I've had several businesses, I have never done an elevator pitch.
Really?
Really? Well, at least I have never prepared for one.
Right.
I think that there have been times where I may have been coerced into doing an elevator pitch just off the cuff, but never.
Right, just kind of doing it and not really knowing what you were actually doing. It's like when you're a baby and you start walking, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You just know that you're walking.
Right.
So I definitely get that.
Yeah, so I thought it was pretty interesting to just kind of do a little bit of research about that. And an elevator pitch, it should take about 30 to 60 seconds. And in that time frame, you want to hook people and narrow down your focus to some key points.
Okay.
So that they can basically see if they are interested in whatever service you're providing or whatever product you're selling. There are different types of elevator pitches. I didn't realize this. You want to have an elevator pitch for your lender, your supplier or your partner, the employees, and also for the customer. And so at any given time, you want to have at least 4 of them. Did you know that?
I didn't know that until I seen Scott and John's podcast. So that was definitely a very helpful tidbit to kind of expand upon that knowledge, because many times when you start a business, like, you get your family together, you're like, hey, I'm doing this. And, either at that point in time, that's a good time to either have people come help you as family members to help you run your business or just support you in your business. So a good elevator pitch for your family is a good place to start, with your elevator pitch.
I don't know. For me, it feels like the elevator pitch would come later. But according to the information that I researched and talking to Scott a little bit about it, actually the elevator pitch is one of the first things that you do. So that's why that's step 1.
Yeah, in hindsight, it definitely makes sense because it shows that you've done your research, you've done some work beforehand, before you got to this point to you're in someone's face, sharing your dream. Sometimes when we have these dreams, we get so excited and we just want to blabble off all the information that we know into somebody else that has no interest or may have interest. It just sounds like a lot of words. When you take time and you choose decisive words and wording for that elevator pitch, it comes off so much cleaner and better for prospective people that's going to invest and potentially help you or be a client of yours.
So what does that look like in your opinion? What does it look like for a person that is just starting out? They're wanting to start a business and they know what they want to do. They've done a little bit of it, but now they're trying to create this elevator pitch. What do you think that looks like?
I think really having the facts, a lot of the facts, and essentially how it's going to come around full circle, meaning how are you going to get paid? What are the daily activities? And how much work are you going to put into this every day?
Okay. I know Scott and John talked about the 3 C's. The 3 C's are credibility, conceptual, and concrete. And so I want to kind of talk about that just a little bit. I want to talk about each one because I
Okay.
know that they kind of didn't break it down. I think that we should kind of break it down a little bit
Okay.
for everybody just so that they can get a better idea
Right.
of what it means
Mm-hmm.
to be credible. So, how can you prove that you're credible? I think that in an elevator pitch, in order to prove credibility, you've got to highlight relevant experience.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to ensure that you emphasize what makes you and your approach unique in that pitch.
Right.
I think that's a really, really, really important point because a lot of people don't realize that that is one of the things that you really, really have to do. You do need a little bit of experience. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say that we probably need to take some time and you probably need to take some time and really research what it is that you're trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
test it out,
Yeah.
become knowledgeable in it.
Mm-hmm.
If there are certifications that you need to get those certifications, and then get some experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's easier said than done.
Right.
So when we're talking about time, it takes time to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of people, if this is the first step, what does that really look like?
Mm-hmm. So for me, the first step would be becoming knowledgeable, right, and getting those facts. So say, for instance, I have a product and I'm in the baking industry, right? I want to find out what area I'm going to be serving in, where I want to put my bakery, what bakeries are in that area, what do they serve there, how is my product different from their product.
Mm-hmm.
Just doing a lot of product research for your target audience and the area that you're essentially going to start in.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I would essentially start.
Okay. I also think credibility means you have an opportunity to kind of tell your story
Mm-hmm.
and build confidence.
Right.
You have to have that confidence. You can't walk into a room and pitch something to somebody and you're not confident in it either.
Not at all.
You know, that elevator pitch, you really want to practice.
Mm-hmm.
I'll later in the episode, I want to get into a show that I watched that where there were people that were doing elevator pitches, and I think that you really do have to get in that mirror and you have to practice.
You can't go in there and just give me the money.
No,
You can't do that.
Nope, you can't do
Okay.
that. You have to practice. You have to be prepared.
Okay.
I mean, even if you're just trying to relay that information, not to a lender.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because it's essentially it's a sales pitch,
Right.
and even if it's not a lender, you're talking to a customer. You want to sell that product to that customer.
Mm-hmm.
You have somebody that's coming to work for you. You
Mm-hmm.
want to sell your business to them. You want them to believe in it the way that you believe in it.
Exactly.
You
That's
know,
why it's so important to have a solid, very strategic elevator pitch put together for those 4 different instances: for your investor, for your potential clients,
Mm-hmm.
people that are potentially going to work with you, and potential partners.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move to conceptual.
Okay.
What does it mean to be conceptual?
What does it mean to be conceptual, Courtney?
It means to be clear and concise. You really want to get to the point. What's your power statement? Like, you want to start with a very powerful statement
Mm-hmm.
or a question that grabs their attention.
Okay.
You know, you want to make sure that you identify your top 2 or 3 points that you want your audience to remember, to ensure that they're clearly communicated.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you miss those points,
Mm-hmm.
they don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, you want to be able to leverage your network.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get feedback from. You want to take that pitch and pitch it to other people and make sure that they understand it and get feedback so that you can continue to tune it up,
Right.
make it better.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. Just because you have an elevator pitch doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be constantly fixed. That's just where your starting point is. So
Right.
you need to always make sure it's up to date and ready to go at all times.
Yeah. Also, one of the things that I realized, a lot of people, they mention referrals or connections that they have, big names,
Yeah.
social media influences,
Right.
community collaborations, that kind of thing.
Mm.
They always mention those in elevator pitches too.
Yeah.
I think that just adds more to, showing that you're credible.
Yeah, the credibility of your product and your company.
You want to talk about potential bias. If there are any objections to your audience, if they look at that and they say, I hear what you're saying, but you have to be prepared to answer some of those tough questions that may come.
Yeah.
That's a part of it. So you want to make sure that you have you've done your research, that you are an expert in what you do.
Yep. That is definitely one of the biggest parts in pitching to a potential investor, because they're going to have those questions, those hard questions, because you want their money essentially, and they're going to protect their money, which is good because they're going to make sure you're successful essentially, but you want to be able to have the information that they need at that time,
Yeah, absolutely. And you also want to turn any challenges that you have into strengths. So when they come, and with those tough questions, you want to say, well, yes, we have explored this, and what we found is this is what we need to do.
Right.
This is an issue, but this is what we're doing to work to resolve that, either in the industry or with that particular business that you have.
That was very good. I like that.
Now, one of the things that I definitely wanted to kind of point out is, if you are a woman that is starting a business, sometimes, depending on the industry, you may have to overprove yourself. Unfortunately, that's just one of the things that happens. And it's not just women, it's minorities. Sometimes if it's a woman-dominated industry, it could be a man. You never know.
Right.
But you want to definitely emphasize your technical skills and accomplishments. Make sure that they know and understand what it is that you can do.
Yeah.
And the research and projects that you've done to back up the claim that you are an expertise in your field. Also, if you've been innovative in any type of way and you've put some things together, you want to make sure that they know all of that information.
Right.
This is especially important, in the STEM field. So I think that that's one of the things you want to show, that you also want to show that you can problem solve. Showcase your problem-solving skills.
Absolutely.
I think that that's super important in making sure that you can show somebody that, while I may have a problem, I also can problem solve and solve it. And so I'm not going to let your money go down the drain, or I'm not going to provide you with a service that's janky, or if that service is janky, then I'm going to do what I can to resolve that issue.
Right. Absolutely.
So, all right. Leveraging credibility. You want to mention any notable achievements and awards or affiliations that you have with any respected organizations. I think that's important too. I don't know how much of that you can get in 30 to 60 seconds, but you've got to lay all of that information out there.
Yeah.
It's super important.
I was curious, how many words do you think that 30 to 60 second elevator pitch should be?
Wow, I really don't know.
No.
I don't know.
I think I want to try to find that out, to be more concise. You know what I mean? Go see what the most effective elevator pitches were, and then just kind of do a little data research on that and see what I come up with. Just a little, little nerd fact for myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on, you don't want to have a lot of fluff words.
Right.
You don't want it to, and fluff meaning just extra.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it to be fluffy. You want to be able to get straight to the point.
Right.
I think that's one of the big things, being specific and clear and concise and easy to follow.
Right.
Lay it out. This is my ask.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little bit of history about my company. This shows how I'm credible in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
And do you like it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, right off the top of my head, I'm not sure if that's exactly in that order.
Right.
But you want to make sure that you're just really being clear and concise and putting that information out there.
Right.
So, what does it mean to be concrete? Let's move on to concrete.
Yeah.
You want to deliver clear, specific, and tangible details that can be understood and visualized.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure that you are putting that vision out there for somebody to see.
Right.
I think that I'm a visual person, so if you're talking to me, I'm gonna squirrel. If I'm sitting there, I'm just gonna be honest.
Right. No, I get it.
You talk to me for 60 seconds about something that I have no interest in. After 15, I'm out of there.
Yeah.
So you've got to really hook me in the beginning.
Yeah.
And really catch my attention. Otherwise, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely lost me in the first 15. If those first 15 words don't hook me right in.
Yeah.
You don't have me at 20, then you probably lost me for the rest of it.
Yeah, you got to be straightforward and direct. You've got to get it out there. So those are just a few things that you can do. You want to, if you are doing something in the community, if there is, in other words, if there's a high social impact, you want to make sure that you put that out there. How does what you do solve a problem? You want to make sure that you put that out there. I think that that's extremely important.
Right.
So I see, and if you think about it, and you think about some of the businesses here locally or businesses that you see around the world, everybody does have some type of social impact in some way, shape, or form.
No, you're exactly right. You are exactly right.
So, and make sure that you know who you're talking to.
Absolutely.
You've got to have, while I said you have to have 4, you definitely want to make sure that you have a pitch for the crowd that you're pitching to.
Yeah.
Are you talking to kids? Are you talking to adults? Are you talking to, 20, the 20-somethings? Are you talking to your 60-somethings? You've got to be able to pivot.
And know your audience.
Every single time. Every single time.
Yeah.
You also don't want to use, one of the big things I think a lot of people use, they think it's important to use a lot of industry terms.
Don't get into the jargon.
Get out of there.
Yeah.
Get out of there. Because people won't know what you're talking about. I'm
Not
sitting here trying to think of what that means,
Mm-hmm.
and you've moved on. So
Right.
don't do that. Don't do that. So, what are your thoughts on being concrete?
Just really knowing your information, those just those facts about the industry that they may not know, staying away from the jargon, but just hitting those key points that are important for the bottom line. I'm just thinking about when speaking to an investor or someone like that, just being concrete, because the bottom line is essentially the most important part for the investors.
I also think about cultural sensitivity. Sometimes you have to be aware of the cultural norms and kind of adjust to those, just your approach, to who you're talking to too. You never want to be insensitive in any way, shape,
Absolutely.
or form. So that's important. Aside from that, I think that then you want to, after you've hit that 30 seconds or 60 seconds, whatever, you want to have something to follow up with. John and Scott really talked about that. Do you have a card? Do you have a one-page flyer that kind of lays that information out?
Right.
That way, if they want to follow up with you,
Right.
they can do so by way of calling you on the phone
Mm-hmm.
or, using the PR code that's on your flyer.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that you have a way for them to follow up, because they may not be able to right in that moment say yay or nay.
Right.
Let me think about this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take a few moments and see, how I feel about this. Let me talk this over with my wife. There's so many different ways that can go.
Right.
And so you want to make sure that you allow them the opportunity to follow up.
Absolutely. And be prepared when they do follow up with more information, a more elaborate elevator pitch, if you will, to just give more information and dig just a little bit deeper when they do call back for that follow up.
Yeah. How do you stay authentic in that? Like, I think that sometimes you think about an elevator pitch and you think about, being so professional in that moment. You know what I'm saying? And you're not being authentic to you.
So I think that is a very great question. And that that leads me to being yourself and doing the research and being confident in your information. Because essentially it's just you talking, you know what I mean? So as long as you're comfortable, I know when I've done my research and I know what I know, then there's nothing that's going to stop me from delivering that information. I might get those little jitters at the beginning because I'm talking to someone new about something that I have so much passion about. But essentially it's just me just giving that information to somebody else to share my dream with. Yeah. So just really preparing for that moment is what's going to really, once those words start coming out, you've done it so many times. Repetition is the father of learning, Lil Wayne. So, just doing it over and over and just being confident with yourself. I can't express that enough.
Yeah, be yourself. Be proud of your identity.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any final thoughts on being credible, conceptual, or concrete?
No, not right now.
All right.
This podcast is brought to you by S&H Business Services. We are serving the OKC and greater Oklahoma area. We offer tax preparation, accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll services for small businesses and individuals. You can find us at shbusinessservices.com. Again, that's S&H Business Services, found at shbusinessservices.com.
We'll move on to the next segment, which is talking about some of our business struggles. So I have a question for you. So Have you ever struggled with an elevator pitch or it didn't quite meet the mark? I've never done one. And so because I haven't done one, I figured that I'd play around with them a little bit.
Right.
But I want to know from you, have you ever?
Definitely. Many times in the beginning of a business, like I said, being young, like, in your 20s, 21, 22, like you're full of fire.
Yeah.
So for me, a lot of those times I was just like overzealous and I'm trying to tell you everything that I know all at one time. You know what I mean? And people are like, whoa. Yeah. It just goes over their head. It's too much information for them at the time. You might just caught them in a parking lot, and you just need to give them just a few seconds of something. They might be genuinely interested, but if you just overload them, then it's too much for them. I've done that so many times where it's just like, you're giving me too much, when it could have been a little bit more bogged down into a candy bite-sized package and just gave it to them and then gone on about their business, Right. So definitely.
So during my research of the elevator pitch, I came across this amazing TV show called Entrepreneur Elevator Pitch. It's on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
It has 10 seasons. It's kind of sort of like Shark Tank, but it is the elevator pitch. And so some of the people who are on the show are Nicole Walters, Brandon Marshall, Mark Randolph, Pinky Cole. I know a lot of people may know Pinky Cole. She's the slutty vegan lady out of
Oh,
Atlanta.
okay, yeah.
So they have a lot of like celebrity investors on the
Mm-hmm.
show. And so what you do is you go into the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
They do you a countdown. You have 60 seconds. In that 60 seconds, you have to give your elevator pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Once that 60 seconds is up, hopefully you finished it.
Yeah.
If you didn't, they may not get the full picture. They take a few minutes and they vote on whether to allow you into the boardroom to talk for a little bit longer,
Right.
or they send you back down.
Mm-hmm.
It is so good. I am so super invested at this point. Like,
Yeah.
I am telling you, I watched it and I was like, man, this is really interesting. And so listening to, and this is only geared towards the investors. I want to
Right.
make sure that that's clear. So again, we still want to make sure that we have 4 different elevator pitches.
Right.
But with this one, because you're pitching to an investor, you have to really, really, really be prepared for those hard questions that
Right.
we were talking
Yeah.
about previously. And so I heard them say, they made a comment, they were like, wow, he could have dressed a little bit better for the pitch. And I thought about that and I said, wow, I said, some of these people they're dressing the part.
Right.
And so some people, if the pitch is about exercise or something like that, then they had on exercise clothes. If it was a pitch about nursing scrubs or any type of scrubs,
Right.
they had on that. But this particular person, it didn't have anything to do with fitness or anything like that. And he had a pair of slacks on, maybe some Dockers, and a button-up shirt. His shirt was wrinkled and his collar was unbuttoned. And I think he realized that they did not vote him up to talk in the boardroom. But they did say, he could have dressed a little bit better. And then when they did his interview, he says, maybe I could have buttoned my shirt up and put on a tie. I don't know. So he knew.
He felt it.
He knew what it was. So another thing to think about is, are you dressed for the part?
Right.
Are you dressed to pitch your elevator pitch to who the audience that you're pitching to? Let them know what you're selling. What is your ask?
Right.
That's also super important too. What is your ask? If you're a creative, do you know the numbers? You've got to be able to speak to the financials of your business because they're going to ask you about that.
Right, definitely.
And so you've got to know all of that because especially if you're pitching to an investor,
right,
you're asking them for money.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're asking them for money and you say that you have $1 million business and you're asking them for 200,000, they want to know why. Well, what do you need us for?
Yeah.
You're asking for 20,000. What do you need? What do you need me for?
Right.
Are you looking for mentorship? Are you mismanaging the business? They want to know because they want to get their return on investment back.
Right, absolutely.
So I really, really enjoyed it. I'm super invested. I'm probably going to watch all 10 seasons. I'm just saying.
I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe you.
Yeah. So you want to start with a hook that really grabs their attention. Really hone in on what it is that you are asking them and making sure that you outline those key points, 2 to 3 points. Make it quick. 60 seconds is not a lot of time.
It's not a lot of time, but it is a lot of time if you're not prepared for that time.
Yeah.
So it seems like an eternity.
Yeah.
But if you're using it correctly, you can be very effective and you can essentially get what you're looking for, whether it's an investor or a partner or the client that you're looking for.
So have you ever, I know that you at one point in time, you were doing like sales calls.
Yeah.
That essentially is an elevator pitch.
Essentially, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how did you handle rejection?
You just go to the next call. You really don't think. In the beginning, it was very tough, because you want to make every sale. But once you start to understand some other things in sales, like doing the numbers, and you're not going to sell every person, you bottle that in, and you get right back on that phone and call the next person, and you run that very same pitch, you know?
I get that. But I think sometimes, I mean, me as a somewhat emotional person at times, rejection is hard.
Mm-hmm. It
And
is.
sometimes when you have been rejected so many times, you ready to quit.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's even in business. Even if you're an entrepreneur, sometimes you
Mhm.
get tired of hearing that no. And
Mhm.
so what advice would you give to someone who has continued to hear a constant no? No, 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 not interested.
Advice for someone to constantly hearing the no. I would probably tell them to continue to be resilient. You know, I read a book and it said you're 3 feet from goal.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of people stop when they're 3 feet from goal. You know, that means you put in all this work. You haven't seen nothing come back from it. You're just constantly working. You don't see anything coming back from it.
Yeah.
That is part of the process.
Right.
Essentially, you're going to go through that at some point in time.
Everybody does.
Yeah. So the thing is that you have to know that gold is on the other side of the work that you're doing. Like I said in the last episode, it's about delayed gratification.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to know that that's going to come with it. And you have to be prepared for that on the front end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have to really be driven.
Yeah. Anybody in sales, I mean, that's just part of the sales part. I'm sure we'll get into that later, but that takes a whole lot of classes and preparation in its own just to be able to build yourself up for that.
Yeah.
Some people do it naturally. Some people it takes a little more time and practice with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I think that I'm not a salesperson, so
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know how many times I'm gonna take no, you know.
Right.
I don't really like that no, and I know that it's a thing. I understand that you're going to be told no. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anybody to think that I just don't accept no and I just quit.
Right.
I don't. It's hard. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to process sometimes, and you're gonna get those no's. You just
Mm-hmm.
have to be ready for, picking yourself back up and moving to the next one and not taking it personal. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it's personal because a lot of times people say no the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But then they come back and they're like, wait a minute now. But that also, if you think about it, that's an opportunity. If you got that no, how can you refine your pitch?
Right.
How can you refine it and make it get that yes? How do you get that yes?
This podcast is brought to you by S&H Business Services. We are serving the OKC and greater Oklahoma area. We offer tax preparation, accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll services for small businesses and individuals. You can find us at shbusinessservices.com. Again, that's S&H Business Services, found at shbusinessservices.com.
I hope that some of this information that we've given today has been helpful to you guys. If not, then we're just going to talk about actionable advice. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things that we can give you? What are some of the things that we can give you that will allow you to actually go out and do what it is that we've talked about today?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the first thing that you really want to do is you want to identify your core message. Mm-hmm. You want to narrow it down. As a creative, I have great big ideas, big dreams. Narrow it down to something that's very simplified that you can really, really start with and work with. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you define what the goal is and clarify your value proposition. You want to draft your pitch and start with a hook. Outline those key points. You want to include your call to action. Make sure that you include your call to action. That's just a clear request of what it is that you want or what the next step is for your audience. You also want to make sure that you adjust your language so that they know and understand what it is that you're talking about. I would say make it so clear that an 8th grader could understand. Mm-hmm. I think that's super important. It's easy. It's mm-hmm. easy to understand. You want to make sure that you avoid any jargon. You want to make sure that you are practicing. Rehearse it in the mirror over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. All 4 of them. Rehearse them, rehearse them, rehearse them. You have one for your investor. You have one for your partner or your supplier. You have one for your employees. And then you have a pitch for your customer. You always want to make sure that you have that. If you have those things and you're able to memorize those key points, I think that you really have set yourself up to really be successful in your elevator pitch. The last thing that I would say, in several instances, you may have to just test it out mm-hmm. and refine it as needed. And I think that those are things that you're going to always continuously do throughout, having your business and expanding mm-hmm. your business.
Yeah, it's going to come a lot more naturally. The more you stay in your business, you're going to be pitching all the time. Mm-hmm. Essentially, you think about it, anytime you're in a new business, you're talking about it 99% of the time. Mm-hmm. Anytime I've done anything, that's pretty much the whole gist of my conversation. So you're constantly always going to be pitching your business. So it's going to come with time and repetition, and you're always going to be tweaking that and coming up with a better way to have a better delivery every time with that pitch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think that this kind of closes out our actionable advice segment. So I hope that this information was helpful to someone out there. As we wrap up this episode of No Ceilings, please go to the Turtlesmith website at turtlesmith.com for more information on how to write out a step-by-step guide on how to write out an elevator pitch. And also any other resources that may assist you in building your business. Thank you all for tuning in.
See you next time.